All right, let's dive into this one. We've gotten a ton of requests from you all to break down Patty Barnett's 15 reasons why success is taking so long. Clearly, a lot of us feel like we're on that journey, but maybe hitting some roadblocks.
It's a book that really resonates, that's for sure. And one of the things Barnett nails right away is this idea of the success highway.
Oh, yeah, that was a great metaphor.
It is, isn't it? She's basically saying we tend to overestimate how far we've actually traveled on that road to success. We might be headed in the right direction, but thinking we're way closer to the finish line than we actually are.
It's like checking the GPS and being like, oh, sweet, just a couple exits away. But then you realize, oh, wait, this is rush hour traffic. It's going to be another hour.
Exactly. And I think there's a deeper psychological reason for this, too. Humans are kind of hardwired for optimism, right? We overestimate our abilities, underestimate how long things will really take.
It's that classic planning fallacy thing. Like behavioral economics has proven this over and over.
Exactly. It's not just wishful thinking. Our brains just aren't great at predicting the future and factoring in all those potential roadblocks and delays.
Okay, so knowing that, how do we avoid falling into that trap? Because awareness is one thing, but changing our behavior is another.
Barnett has a few strategies. One thing she's big on is breaking down goals into smaller milestones.
Chunking it up makes it less intimidating.
Exactly. It helps us track our progress more realistically and not get overwhelmed by the enormity of the goal itself.
And it gives you more opportunities to celebrate along the way, which can boost motivation.
For sure. And those small wins build up. Speaking of building, that brings us to another one of Barnett's big points: teamwork. She's adamant that solo efforts eventually hit a ceiling.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people, myself included, sometimes get stuck. We're like, I can do it all myself. It'll be faster and easier. But then you burn out.
You hit a bottleneck, exactly.
Yeah.
And even if you're super talented, you're limiting how fast and how big you can grow.
It's like that woolly mammoth analogy she used, right? One person with a spear isn't bringing down that beast. You need a whole team, each with their own skills.
Exactly. It's about this synergy, too, not just dividing up tasks. When people with different strengths and viewpoints collaborate, well, the results can be way bigger than if each person worked alone.
So how do you build that kind of team where everyone clicks? Because I think that's where folks get stuck. They know they need help, but building a team that actually works is another story.
Well, Barnett gets into communication, setting clear expectations, and making sure everyone's roles are defined.
So no one's stepping on each other's toes.
Right. But even before that, she talks about building genuine relationships with your team members.
Yeah, because if there's no trust, the whole thing falls apart.
Absolutely. When you have that foundation of respect, it's easier to brainstorm, disagree productively, and work towards that shared goal.
Okay, so you've got your team, but what about resources? I know Barnett has some pretty mind-blowing stuff to say about that.
Oh, this is one of my favorite parts. It's about resourcefulness, basically. How effectively you use other people's money, knowledge, connections, all of that.
That was a game changer for me when I read it, because early on especially, we're so focused on doing everything ourselves, right? Like, asking for help feels like admitting weakness.
It's a common fear, but Barnett challenges that. She says resourcefulness is actually a sign of intelligence. You don't need to have all the answers. It's about recognizing what's already out there that you can utilize.
Like, don't reinvent the wheel if there's a perfectly good one ready to roll.
Think about it. Banks, investors, mentors, heck, even friends and family with expertise you don't have. These are all resources.
So for everyone listening, where are you going it alone when you could be tapping into these kinds of resources in your business, personal life? Take a second to think about that.
And while you're thinking, consider this. Barnett is big on the idea that who you hang out with shapes your ambition.
Oh, yeah. That whole you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with idea.
Exactly. Our social circles influence our beliefs, our values, even how big we're willing to dream.
It's like if you're surrounded by folks who are content with the status quo, it's harder to break out and really go for it.
Barnett takes it even further, though. She says if you want to reach a certain level of success, you need people in your life who are already operating at that level.
It's about raising your standards.
Exactly. It exposes you to new possibilities, new ways of thinking. So look at your current circle. Are they inspiring you, pushing you, or are they maybe unintentionally holding you back?
That's a deep question, and it leads perfectly into our next point, because ambition and the right people are great, but what about goals?
Oh, Barnett is adamant about the difference between dreams and actionable goals. Most people stop at the dream.
They're wandering around the forest with no map or compass.
That's her analogy. But a goal with timelines, trackers, specific steps, that's like having a GPS. You get where you're going faster and with less wasted effort.
So for you listening, do your goals have that level of structure? Or are they still kind of fuzzy?
If they're fuzzy, maybe that's contributing to why success feels so far off.
Clarity is key. And so is discipline, right? That's another big theme in the book.
Oh, huge. She's all about consistent action, not just bursts of inspiration. Showing up even when you don't feel like it. Doing the work even when it's tough.
And we all have those days where motivation is MIA, right?
Totally. But even on those days, Barnett says doing something to move forward keeps that momentum going. It's not about being superhuman. It's about building the habit.
I love that story she tells about the compound effect, like those small deposits in a savings account, right?
Exactly. They seem tiny at first, but over time, wow, the growth is incredible. And it's not just our actions that compound.
What else does?
Our knowledge. Every book, course, conversation with someone who knows more than us. It all adds up.
So for everyone out there, what's one thing you could start absorbing today that would expand your knowledge in an area relevant to your goals?
A book, podcast, documentary. Anything that gets you thinking in new ways. So before the break, we were talking about knowledge compounding and finding those resources to level up. It's like Barnett says, small improvements, consistently applied, lead to massive results over time.
It's easy to get caught up in wanting the quick fix, the overnight success story, but that's rarely how it works in the real world, is it?
Nope, not usually.
Right.
And this is where another one of Barnett's counterintuitive points comes in. She actually advises against focusing too much on passive income, especially early in your journey.
Wait, really? That seems to go against what a lot of the get-rich-quick gurus are preaching these days.
It does, doesn't it? But her reasoning is pretty sound. Think about it this way. Early on, your biggest leverage is turning a small amount of capital into a much larger amount.
So like focusing on those big wins that can really move the needle instead of trickling in a few bucks here and there?
Exactly. Turning 25 grand into 250 grand has way more impact than a little monthly side income. Passive income is great, but it's more of an end game strategy, not the starting point.
It's like choosing to invest in a company that's about to explode in value versus getting a few cents interest from your savings account.
Perfect analogy. Focus on those capital gains early on, then build the passive streams once you've got a solid foundation. And another thing Barnett flicks on its head is the whole fear of risk thing.
Oh man, that resonated with me. I think so many of us are paralyzed by that. What if I lose everything?
Thought. Right, but she points out, even if you do lose everything, you don't lose the knowledge and experience you gained along the way.
It's like they say, you can take my money, but you can't take my skills.
Exactly. So playing it safe might feel comfortable, but it rarely leads to those huge breakthroughs. Calculated risks, knowing you can bounce back from setbacks. That's where the magic happens.
So for everyone listening, what's that one risk you've been putting off that, if it did work out, would be a game changer for you?
It's worth considering. Now, once you are taking those risks and building something amazing, you got to make sure people know about it. Barnett calls this visibility.
It's that whole if a tree falls in the forest thing, right? No one can support you, invest in you, buy from you if they don't even know you exist.
Exactly. Whether it's a product, a service, your expertise, you've got to get in front of people.
So how are you doing that? Are you actively promoting your work, networking strategically? Are you using social media to your advantage?
Think about what one action you could take this week to raise your visibility in a space that matters to your goals. Because all that hard work deserves to be seen.
Okay, so you're putting yourself out there, but then there's the trap of BUCY work versus productive work. That's something Barnett is really clear about.
It's a distinction a lot of us miss, right? We mistake activity for progress. But she's all about identifying those high-G impact tasks, the ones that directly move you towards your goals.
And everything else.
Delegate it, ditch it, automate it if you can.
So for our listeners, what's something you're spending time on that honestly isn't moving the needle? What could you cut out to make space for those high-impact activities?
Think about that. Now, here's one that might surprise you. Barnett talks about the fear of success as a real obstacle.
Wait, fear of success, isn't that what we're all striving for?
It seems counterintuitive, right? But think about it. Our brains are wired for safety and comfort. Even positive change can feel scary because it takes us out of that comfort zone.
It's like our brains want to protect us from the unknown, even if that unknown is actually something good.
Success often brings big changes. More responsibility, more visibility, maybe even a totally different lifestyle. That can trigger resistance, even if we logically want it.
So how do we overcome that fear? Because if we're subconsciously sabotaging ourselves, that's a problem.
Well, Barnett suggests something that sounds simple but is actually really powerful. Visualization. And not just positive thinking, like picturing yourself on a yacht once you're a millionaire.
Oh, so it's deeper than that.
It's about visualizing the entire journey, the highs and the lows. Imagine yourself achieving those goals, but also imagine the challenges you'll overcome, the obstacles you'll face.
So you're mentally preparing for the whole package, not just the glamorous end result.
Exactly. It helps rewire our brains to see success as something attainable and even desirable rather than something to be scared of.
I love that. And visualization alone isn't enough, right? It's got to be paired with action.
Oh, absolutely. But it can be a powerful first step to shift your mindset from fear to excitement.
And along with action, I think clarity is key. That's something Barnett emphasizes throughout the book.
Oh, for sure. Being super clear about what you want and what you're willing to do to get it. So often we get caught up in the doing without asking, why am I doing this in the first place?
Right. Are our actions actually aligned with our values? Are we truly passionate about this goal? Because if not, that's a recipe for burnout.
Exactly. And it often leads to that busy work trap we talked about earlier. Barnett is all about aligning your actions with your values and strategically focusing on those high-impact tasks.
So it's not just about checking things off a to-do list. It's about making sure those tasks are actually moving you closer to your goals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's about being ruthless with your time and energy. Learn to say no to things that sound good but don't align with your priorities.
Which can be tough, especially for people pleasers like me. But it's crucial, isn't it?
It is. Because when you're clear on what you're working towards and why it matters to you, those decisions become easier. You have that inner compass guiding you. And speaking of guiding...
What about mentors? Barnett talks a lot about those, right?
Oh, she's a huge advocate for mentors and coaches, mastermind groups.
Yeah.
Any kind of supportive community that can help you grow and stay accountable.
I think a lot of people underestimate the power of that, especially in a world that often feels so individualistic.
We're not meant to do it all alone. And mentors can offer guidance, perspective, even just that encouragement when you're feeling doubtful.
So for our listeners, who are some people you could reach out to who might be able to mentor you in some way? Think about folks who are a few steps ahead of you on the path you want to be on.
Don't be afraid to ask. You never know who might be willing to share their wisdom and experience.
And, just as important as having mentors is being a mentor yourself.
Absolutely. Giving back, sharing what you've learned. It's part of creating that positive ripple effect that Barnett talks about.
It's about recognizing that we're all in this together and that supporting each other is how we all rise.
Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about another crucial ingredient for success. Energy management.
Oh, that's a big one. We all have limited energy, but it's easy to forget that and try to run on fumes.
And that's a recipe for burnout. Barnett emphasizes the importance of not just managing our time, but managing our energy as well. So it's not just about when we do it and in what state we're doing it.
So like trying to tackle that big creative project when you're already exhausted is probably not the best strategy.
Exactly. It's about recognizing your own energy patterns, knowing when you're at your best for certain tasks, and then structuring your day accordingly.
So for everyone listening, what are some things that drain your energy? And what are those activities that leave you feeling recharged and inspired? Start paying attention to those patterns.
Once you know your energy rhythms, you can start designing your days to maximize your productivity and creativity. You can work with your energy instead of against it.
Okay, so we've got energy management, we've got mentors, we've got clarity. What about that inner critic we all struggle with? That voice that tells us we're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy of success.
Oh, the inner critic. Barnett has some great advice for dealing with that little gremlin. She encourages us to first become aware of it, to notice when those negative thoughts are popping up.
So it's about catching ourselves in the act of self-sabotage.
Exactly. Once you're aware of those thoughts, you can start to challenge them. Ask yourself, is this thought really true? Is it helpful? Is it serving me in any way?
Because often those negative thoughts are based on old beliefs and insecurities that no longer serve us.
Exactly. So once you've challenged those thoughts, you can start to reframe them. Look for evidence that contradicts those negative beliefs. Focus on your strengths, your achievements, the positive feedback you've received from others.
It's about shifting your focus from what you lack to what you have to offer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, sometimes we need a little help silencing that inner critic. This is where having a supportive community can be so valuable.
Yeah. Surround yourself with people who believe in you, who see your potential, who encourage you to be your best self.
Because when you're surrounded by positivity and support, it becomes easier to drown out that negative self-talk. And this brings us to another crucial point, the importance of celebrating your wins.
Oh, yes. We're often so focused on the next goal, the next milestone, that we forget to pause and acknowledge how far we've already come.
Barnett is big on celebrating both big and small victories. She suggests keeping a success journal, sharing your wins with others, taking time to reflect on your progress and appreciate how much you've grown.
It's about acknowledging the effort, the dedication, the perseverance that went into achieving those wins.
Exactly. And it's about shifting your focus from what you haven't done yet to what you have accomplished. Because when you focus on the positive, it creates a sense of momentum and motivation that propels you forward.
So what's one win, big or small, that you're proud of? Take a moment to celebrate that win. Give yourself credit for the effort and dedication you put in, because you deserve it.
You've come a long way, and you have so much to be proud of. And as you continue on your journey towards success, remember this. You are capable of achieving anything you set your mind to. You have the power to create the life you desire. And you are not alone on this journey. So we've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into Patty Barnett's 15 reasons why success is taking so long. It's amazing how many of these reasons are actually things we're doing to ourselves, not external roadblocks.
Right. It's empowering in a way. Like, we actually have more control over this success thing than we often realize.
Exactly. And one thing we can control is who we surround ourselves with. Barnett is a huge believer in the power of building a strong network.
Yeah, I think a lot of people cringe when they hear the word networking. They picture those awkward events where everyone's just trying to collect business cards.
Oh, I know. But that's not what Barnett's talking about at all. She makes this great distinction between transactional relationships and transformational relationships.
Okay, I'm all ears. Explain that, because I can see how the "what can you do for me" kind of networking can backfire.
It totally can. Transactional is all about what you can get from someone, a favor, a connection, whatever. But transformational relationships, those are the ones that really matter.
So what makes them different?
They're built on mutual respect, genuine connection, and a shared desire to see each other succeed. It's about giving as much as you receive, being there for each other through thick and thin.
That sounds amazing, but how do you actually build those kinds of relationships? Especially in a world that often feels so, well, transactional.
It's about being intentional. Reach out to people you admire, but not with an ask. Just with a genuine expression of interest in what they do.
So no elevator pitches.
Definitely not. Offer help, even if it's something small. And stay in touch consistently, even if it's just a quick note every few weeks.
So it's about playing the long game, showing that you genuinely care about the other person, not just what they can do for you.
Exactly. And while we're on the topic of who we surround ourselves with, Barnett also stresses the importance of being selective about our inner circle.
Oh, right. Those few people we're closest to, they have a huge impact on our energy or mindset.
Everything. She encourages us to be around people who inspire us, support our growth, hold us accountable.
And just as importantly, maybe even more so, distancing ourselves from people who drain our energy or hold us back.
It's about creating that positive, supportive ecosystem that lets you truly thrive. You know, as we wrap up this deep dive into 15 reasons why success is taking so long, I think it's important to remember that it's not just a book of theories, it's a roadmap.
Yes. Barnett gives actual strategies, actionable steps, real-world examples that we can put into practice. It's not just about feeling inspired, it's about knowing what to do.
Exactly. She breaks down those big, scary obstacles into smaller, manageable chunks. And she gives really specific advice on things like goal setting, time management, networking, building your personal brand.
Even stuff like overcoming procrastination, which I think we all struggle with from time to time.
Oh, totally. And she acknowledges that there's no one-size-fits-all path. What works for one person might not work for another. So it's about finding what resonates with you.
Experimenting, figuring out your own unique approach. It's kind of exciting when you think about it that way.
It is. And, something she emphasizes over and over is that success isn't a destination, it's a journey.
It's about the growth, the learning, the becoming, all along the way.
Exactly. So as you continue on your journey, remember the key takeaways from our deep dive. Embrace teamwork, leverage those resources around you, get clear on what you truly want, build those meaningful connections, and never stop learning and growing.
And remember, you have the power to create the success you desire. It's not about luck or circumstance. It's about making choices, taking action, and believing in yourself every step of the way.
We've had a blast exploring this book with you all, and we hope you've gotten some valuable nuggets of wisdom to apply to your own lives. Until next time, keep striving, keep learning, keep creating the life you deserve.
And most importantly, have fun along the way. Because what's the point of all this success stuff if you're not enjoying the ride?